Choose to push or pull cost item details between your catalog, job budget, or your documents to reflect updates and changes at either level. Let's start at the beginning. When we pull a cost item into a job budget, we're making a copy of that item. This way, we can customize the cost item details for this particular job without impacting our catalog. However, sometimes we do want our changes from the budget to reflect back into our cost catalog, or we may want to pull updates from our catalog into the budget. Well, let's look at a cost item that I just copied from the catalog. I'll add a description, and maybe I'll adjust the cost. And then I'll save my changes. Now if I click the 3 dots on the item, I have the option to push my updates back to the catalog. A pop-up will then appear comparing the cost item details listed in the budget to what we have saved in the catalog. Each row that has a discrepancy will be highlighted in yellow, and I can select which details I'd like to update. Now another option in the 3-dot menu is to pull item details from the catalog, which will again show the difference between my budget item and the catalog item. However, this time if I use this tool, I am pulling the catalog details into this item in my budget. Now if we need to push or pull details for multiple cost items at once, I can select each of the items, or I can even select my entire budget and the Mass Budget Actions drawer will open. Now we can see these 2 buttons to update multiple items at the same time. Now let's check out how this works between items in your budget and those listed on documents. When we create a new document, it's essentially a snapshot of our budget at that time. Therefore, if we'd like to update cost item details between our budget and the documents, we can do so using the same tools. Let's explore a few different examples. We'll start by creating a proposal. Remember that when we create it, this is now a snapshot of our budget at this moment. If we go back to our budget, let's say, and maybe update any items, these changes will not automatically be reflected on the document, and vice versa. However, while we're in draft mode of a proposal, let's head back in there. Then we can click the Edit Item Details button on the bottom of the document to take a look at the behind-the-scenes view of this document. Now you can click the 3 dots next to each cost item and you have the option to pull the item details from the budget onto the document item. This is also helpful as a mass action, so we can select all the items and use our mass action to update multiple cost items at once. Now another great place to use this feature is when you use bid request documents. So let's say that we received a bid from a vendor, and we'd like to update our budget with the total costs on the bid. Well, we can click the View Item Details button on the bottom of the document, and then either push the item details one by one, or we can select all the items and use the mass action Push Cost Item Details to the budget. Now we can choose to update the costs on multiple items back in our budget. Our last example of another way to use this feature is with write-in selections. If you added a write-in selection on a document, you have allowed the customer to enter the item that they'd like to include in the project. Now we can visit the submitted document, and then we're going to click on View Item Details at the bottom. And this way we'll go again behind the scenes of the document, and now we can click the 3 dots at the item level and choose to push the item details to the budget. And then we will click Update. Now when we go back into our budget, we can see that the items are fully populated from our bid request documents or even the choice that our customer made on a selection. We hope that you enjoy this feature and it makes your JobTread experience even easier and smoother. If you have any questions, please contact your success manager or you can email support@jobtread.com.